Good Friday morning, Caleb. It is Friday the 19th of June, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of screen recording because I've discovered that if I've upgraded to Mac OS 26 Tahoe, I can record the screen in HDR. Crazy, huh? So let's do a little bit of video or photo editing in Resolve 21. Start my screen recording here. Record in HDR. Pretty cool. And then we'll start up Resolve. So, let's go like this. Delete. Been doing some testing. Friday. Oh boy. So we're going to go over here to our media and we're going to go to a photo folder that I saved some random photos from my archives. Basically tried to get a bunch of different kinds of cameras to test out what we got, mostly pictures of cats and representing several different cameras. Add to media pool. And then once we have these, we select all and we go new photo album using selected clips. We'll just call this photo album 1 because I'm lazy. And I'll have some coffee. Nothing fancy to drink today, just coffee. All right, so what we have here is not a ton of information, honestly. Metadata. Turn off the inspector. There we go. So it's showing me all this information that is not technically accurate, like color space rec 709. It's a raw file. So a raw file does not inherently have a color space. Aperture 2.97. It's just weird stuff. So anyways, we've got some stuff from a CCD camera with the M8 and Nikon D200. Some of the old stuff I had. Here's a Fuji X-T3. This one I believe is a Fuji X. Nope, that's an Nikon. All kinds of stuff. Anyways, so let's M10D there, I believe, although it says F, which is interesting. Oh, because I'm on the wrong one. Yeah, just hovering over the thing will show you the image, but it still shows the data from other stuff. It's stupid. Anyways, we'll go here to our Photos tab. Now, the interesting thing that I found about the Photos tab is, just as I suspected, the raw controls are the exact same raw controls on the color page. So you honestly don't even have to do anything in here unless you want to crop it or use one of their looks, which is honestly pretty dumb, or some of their adjustments, which is pretty rudimentary. But anyway, we're going to go and look at our color management real quick because that is the clever bit. So what I'm using is DaVinci YRGB Color Managed. I'm using a color processing mode of HDR DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, which I highly recommend. It gives you a really big color space to open your raw files up into. When I say open up your raw files, when your photo editing application debayers your raw photo, you want it to go into the largest color space and gamut that you can, and DaVinci Wide Gamut is really big. It's probably the biggest that I know of. I don't know how it compares to Ace's. We'll get into that at a later date. And then our color output space is P3D65 SD2084 1000 nits, which matches our display setting, HDR video P3 2084. HDR video, that's what we're doing. If you were going for print, this would be a whole nother story. But anyways, that's what we are doing, is HDR, because HDR photos look amazing. So anyway, yeah, everything looks good here. So let's go ahead and just pop over to the color page, because like I said, the raw file, the raw controls are the same here as they are in the photo page. So what I do is I go full resolution. That's what it's going to debayer as. Decode using clip will open up all your raw controls, which I don't even use. Auto tone normalization. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder why it has this. I've not seen this before. Auto tone normalization. Well, it's doing something. I don't know if it's something I like, but it's doing something. It's not pulling back our clipped highlights here, but yeah. So we apparently don't have a highlight, which is fine, because the whole preserve highlight thing I found to be pretty useless. It does weird stuff. So anyway, we can adjust our color to whatever we want. You know, it's fine. One interesting thing is that it shows color spaces Rec 709, Rec 709. Obviously, that's not accurate. I don't know why it does that. Yeah, we'll leave this as it is because we kind of don't care. And we're just going to pop over to the HDR tools, because the HDR tools are really where it's at. So we can adjust our black level. And I'm looking at my waveforms over here to make all my decisions. We got our 1000 nits line, which is our display setting. And so we could just go like this. We could go to the global and just increase our exposure, which I forget the technicals, but basically the global exposure control in the HDR wheels works linearly, in the sense that if I was to type in 1, that would be a one-stop exposure bump. So therefore, if I typed in 2, that's 2 stops. Now what's cool is it's not going to clip any more than the raw file already was clipped. So if I had exposed this properly and this bit right here wasn't clipped, I could increase this exposure and not see any clipping. Pretty cool. But yeah, so you can do all kinds of stuff here. We can mask it. We can do all kinds of things. I'm just going to adjust our shadow colors a little bit. The nice thing about the HDR wheels is you've got truly a ton of control. Pretty granular control over the different tonal regions of your shot. It's really wonderful. Try to get these real neutral. I was kind of messing around here. I'm not doing anything crazy. And if we go over to our highlights, we can push our highlights around. Yeah, we don't want to do that. We just want to increase our highlights to where our clipping point is just about at 1000 nits, because like I said, you can see in the waveform over there, we've got hard lines. It's already hard clipped. So might as well just push it up. It's going to look ugly, but you can go this neat control over here, high, soft. Can sometimes do interesting things. In this file, it's not really doing what I want it to do, which is to kind of give it a roll off. It's not really doing that. It's fine. It's cool. Then I'll hit Option S to give myself a new node. All my keyboard controls here are obviously for the Mac. They're going to be slightly different on if you're on a Windows machine. But yeah, I know that Caleb, you are on a Mac, and other people watching this probably will be too. Who knows? But let's go over to our our effects. There we go. Film Creator. We are on DaVinci Resolve Studio here, so we've got studio stuff. Now, for not just stills, but also video, I don't add grain because their grain looks like ass, and so we're not going to add that. But let's go down here and let's turn our color down a bit. Bring out there, and then we'll play around with what do we like better. Cinematic, do we like Rochester, do we like Alaska? Not seeing a lot of real big differences here. Vintage, Aurora, yeah, that one's kind of nice. So cool things you can do here is I default that back to 1 for contrast because we don't want to add a ton of contrast. If you want to add contrast, this richness control is kind of neat. It does similar thing to contrast, but in a more interesting way, I would say. I don't really know. I gotta look into it. But then you got subtractive sat, which is a cool way to add saturation. Yeah, it's good stuff. You got your white balance control, stuff like that. You got contrast, you got highlights, but a new thing is highlight roll off, which is neat and does almost what you'd expect it to do. And highlights, you can push your highlights up or down. Pretty cool. Got your halation, all that good stuff. We love it. Cool. So if you want to do a filmic effect, there it is. Yeah, it's fun. But let's say you wanted to do, here's an XT3, Fuji XT3 file. Same kitty cat. It's a little bit older now. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to flip this to full resolution and clip. And as you can see, our controls are different because it's a different camera manufacturer. So we got highlight recovery, which, like I said, in my experience, highlight recovery sometimes helps and sometimes makes weird haloing effects, and I don't love it. So we're gonna play with our color, white balance, looks about good. I'm just kind of looking at my histogram waveform here and trying to make it kind of line up. Looks pretty good. Yeah. And then you could sit here with exposure, which I don't know why this exposure is already moved. I mean, you could sit there and pull your exposure up, but you could also just do it with the global exposure wheel and the HDR tool. I don't know which one's better. My advice is just, play around, try different stuff, see what happens. Great tutorial there, huh? I don't know, guys. Try stuff, see what happens. Anyways, we've got Mr. Pussycat here has got a little bit of shadow non-neutrality. In my opinion, the best color grading is the least amount of color grading. And really, the thing you want to do is just get things neutral. Neutrality goes a long way towards making things look really nice. In my opinion, I don't like it when stuff has weird tints or tinges or just looks weird. So anyways, that is that. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. And you can see there's a lot of noise. The other thing that's fun to do is Shift Option Z will give you 1:1. And yeah, you can see I'm not super sharp in focus because I was shooting this on a Fuji X-T3, which is an APS-C crop camera, and I was using a 35mm f/0.95 manual focus lens, which was a fun lens. I enjoyed it when I owned that camera, and I think it was either a 7 Artisan or a TT Artisan, I don't remember. One of those affordable Chinese lens makers. It was fine. It was pretty good. Now we could go over here and make an extra node. I always recommend to kind of make an extra node when you're gonna do something else. You know, kind of keep your nodes to one function. And we can go to Ultra NR, which is the AI noise reduction thing. We say analyze, and analyze. You can see a little patch here. It puts the analyzation patch in the weirdest places. But now you can see, oh, look at that. Noise is gone. It does a pretty good job. It's perhaps a little heavy-handed, but hit Z to go back to full screen. As you can see, smooths it right out. So we can go Film World Creator and make another node. I just drug that in. As you can see, I made a little plus line when you hold it onto your node lines or whatever. And we did that noise reduction, and then it adds noise, which we don't love. We're going to turn that, I mean, noise, it adds grain, right? Let me turn that off. Looks like shit. Yeah. I'm going to turn this down a bit. Right about there. Change this to Rochester because I like the way that blue looks with Rochester a little better. We got our nice blue and our nice yellow. Looks cool, right? We're gonna crank up, put that down to 1 first, and then we're gonna give it some richness. Yeah, we're gonna give it some color, like popping like crazy, and we're going to roll down here to global blend, and we're going to roll this back just a smidgen. There. And yeah, looks pretty cool. I don't know, maybe not. And then we can go to grain. Oops, we had grain open. No palation. Yeah, we got that. We had grain. Should we add grain since we denoised it so aggressively? I don't know. But first we're going to go white balance a little bit more. Pretty okay. Don't like the skin tones. Skin tone kind of looks like crap. But that's where this neat little trick comes in. Now, before we do that, if you go Shift F, you've got more of a, not quite full screen, but a full screen with controls over here. This is only useful if you're doing effects, because if you're in a normal node, you don't really have controls over here, so that's fun. You can still do Shift Control Z, or I'm sorry, Shift Option Z to get into 1:1 mode. And see our little pussycat ears. Not super sharp. We got our camera details down here. This is ISO 1250, 35mm lens. It says it's an f1, although it has no idea. It's just guessing f0.95. And 1/52, 1/52nd of a second? I don't know. Cool stuff. So we'll get Z back to full. Z is like, you know, fit to screen, fit to window, something like that. And we're still recording, maybe. But yeah, we're playing around with that. Oh yeah, I was gonna show you. So we go Shift F. So let's go to our waveform. Let's change to our vector scope. And our vector scope has our skin tone line here, which we're not seeing super well, but Option S to give us a new node, and we're going to come over here to our RGB mixer. And here's a neat little trick you can do. Your RGB mixer is you're basically very small movements are going to give you a lot on this, but what it is channel contamination. So as you can see, I'm adding adding or subtracting a little bit of red and blue to green, adding green or red to blue, and you can get really interesting effects doing that. But like I said, you want it to be real subtle with it, because if you go cranking on it, wow, it goes nuts. So yeah, 1 or 2 points are gonna get you a long way. And as you can see, got some interesting separation on our vector scopes. Don't know if that really helped the skin tone, but it looks pretty cool. Back to waveform. As you can see, it is way off now, but I like it. Looks nice. Let's see. See here, we got nothing, but we can go like this. We can go effects. We can hit this little toggle and see what the original and after, before and after, before, after. Have we improved it? Debatable. So let's go back here and kitty cats. Here's another one, kitty cats, like SL2 this time, so it's pretty high res, and as you can see, super shadowy. How do we fix that? Well, full res, full 47 megapixels. Oh yeah, good times. Go daylight. A shade. There we go. Highlight recovery. Is it doing something good? Don't know. Don't care. Because we're going to go over to our HDR wheels and we're going to turn this up. Nice. And you're like, why don't I just crank on the global? Because I just want to pull the shadows up. So is it subtle? Sure. Should I push on the global a little bit? Probably. That looks pretty nice. We're clipped a little bit on the bottom of the beer can there, but yeah. It's cute. And then like I said, you can go and just the neutrality. Don't want any pollution in your shadows. Why not? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's some neat tricks for neutralizing, like if you go Option S, make a new node, and then come over to here and say monochrome. And then you grab a still, right click, grab a still. Your still gallery over here. And you can go wipe the still, but you take this and reset. No grade. So you've got your still and your image, right? So you can take your still and you can kind of wipe it across your image. So if we come over here to our beer can, we can see we've got a real hard, or not hard, we've got a real blue tint, right there. And if I zoom in, I'm just using 2 fingers to kind of outwardly pinch. I don't know what the right word is here, but you know, I'm zooming with 2 fingers on my Apple trackpad. And now what I want to do on this layer is I've unticked monochrome when I reset this node. And I'm going to do that trick again where I play with my color balance. As you can see, things are looking kind of weird, but the theory is kind of get these, you kind of put the black and white overlay there to kind of give you a neutral target, which is interesting. So not super neutral, as you can see. But it is something. Yes. We're back to blue. I'm kind of looking at the concrete and I'm kind of looking at the can. I'm kind of seeing, you know, where we are. It seems like I can get the concrete or I can get the can, but yeah. Let's put that back to 0 and let's just go to our HDR. And there we go. So we got the concrete real neutral right there. But the can needs to be like something like that almost. Yeah, I don't know how much use this is for people out there watching, but yeah, boy, I'm gonna have to do a longer video because this is just, I'm sure, getting insanely long. That's like pretty close to neutral on that. So if we turn off our wipe, yep. Still looks like ass. Okay, cool. Let's go to this. Here's one where we can just see what happened. Nope, we want a 4S. Clip. Highlight recovery and exposure. Look at that. Just crank that exposure right up. Right to the line there. Craziness. Yeah, boy. Highlight recovery is not going to help at all on these which are clipped. Let's look at the exposure. Ew. Let's go like that. moody. Yeah, I don't know. Color, tungsten. It's not tungsten. Is it fluorescent? Yeah, it's probably fluorescent. So yeah, then we come over here, our HDR wheels, and let's crank that exposure up. Yes, HDR wheels does look like it's doing exposure somewhat differently than the normal exposure tab. I'm not sure. Something's happening there. Anyways. Whew. Yeah, boy, I don't know if any of this was helpful at all. There's a little kitten. Same cat we've been seeing in earlier photos, but he was just a baby. It was like M8 with the famous, CCD colors. Look at that. I forgot to put this over to full res and project clip. Highlight recovery. Oof, didn't do a thing. You can see what highlight recovery is kind of doing there. Nothing good. It's not tungsten. These are LED lights. I don't know what their count is. Not that. Anyways, try 3600. Close. Not close. Ugh, it's gross. Yeah, anyway, poor little pussycat. So let's go 1. Oh, that's washed out. That's alright. I'm gonna go -2. That doesn't really help. Then if we go here and we go to our curves, curves, editable splines, and we click on this so we can make sure we're in our luminance channel, which is Y, and then we're going to pull that kind of up. We're going to pull this kind of down. Oh, there we go, the classic S curve. Did it help? See, if I pull it side to side, I'm changing kind of the midpoint. So that's kind of nice. And that's why I like working in HDRs. It just gives you an expanded range. Could I pull more detail back in our little kitten there? Probably. Could I fix her skin tone? Probably also too, but yeah, I feel like I'm going way long and we are running out of time. So I'm going to wrap it up and say, have some coffee, have a good weekend, play around with Resolve. And one last thing I'll show you before we go is export HEIC, not low res, HEIC high res, and you get 10-bit HEIF format, which is, perfect for your iPhone. I go delete, and then I go here, and I go source. I go way the F down here. Where is it? Source. Oh boy, good stuff. Yeah, I'm looking for one that says source file. Oh, good Lord. There's a smarter, faster way to do this, I'm sure, but nope. Yeah. Might have to edit this out, but yeah. God damn it. Wow, I swear there's one that was said source file. God. Anyway, who cares? Yeah, call it whatever you want. Give it a location. But yeah, if you export it like this, then it'll show up nicely in your camera roll on your iPhone. And it'll be HDR on your iPhone display because it'll be exported in P3 color and all that good stuff. So, anyways, that is that. Have fun. See you next week.